Alright guys, so this was from the poll over on Patreon. As you guys know, I've been doing all the fanfiction idea polls I'm doing over there are all in turn of the Universal Monsters because we are in spooky season, and yeah. Obviously the last ones I've done, the last two I've done involve the Mummy and Wolfman, and we're just kind of going through all of them. Well, except Hunchback, because I don't really... Yes, he is labeled a universal monster, but it misses the whole point of the character. Anyway, so this was on another poll, and like I said, if you guys would like to be part of polls over on Patreon, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon. You guys can hit the first tier, and that'll give you access to said polls that affect videos here on YouTube as well as Patreon. But other than that, let's get started with this video. So this video, it was kind of a toss-up between two. This one actually came out to be the winner by a vote. Actually, it became the winner by at least one vote. It was actually looked like it was going to be the Invisible Man as the winner, but this one just kind of like came in last second and suddenly just took everything by storm. And as you can see, it is a crossover between Ed, Eddy and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or as I'm calling it, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. HyED. And so there you go. So let's get started with the story. So the story actually begins with the Eds in Double D's attic. They've been looking around for things they can use for a latest scam. However, among those boxes is a locked trunk. And Ed is like, ooh, locked trunk means cool things, and proceeds to break it open despite Double D's horror. But inside is a bunch of, like, locked and old books and journals. And Double D's like, huh. While Eddie's like, it's a lot of stupid books, I don't care. Come on, let's find something useful to us. But however, Double D is curious about these said books. He's curious as to what these books are, and he's trying to figure out what they mean. So he takes one, and it's a journal, but he doesn't have a name on it until he starts like reading it. So inside, when he's reading it, he's like reading through the notes. It says the Diary of Dr. Henry Jekyll, and to which Double D thinks this is hilarious. Like this is funny. Like there's no way that Dr. Jekyll, like this is some elaborate prank by his parents, that Dr. Henry Jekyll is like some distant ancestor. Like, and he refused to believe that a book character was real. However, that doesn't stop him from like wanting to read through more of the book. Like he starts to like really dig into more of the journal, and he's starting to read it, and it's all of Jekyll's ingredients and formula to make the HyED formula. Now, Double D isn't an idiot. While he is still skeptical, he doesn't. If this was real, like he kind of plays out the hypothetical situation of, if this was real, then. If this was real, then I wouldn't make this formula. I have he told me all the ingredients to make the formula, the HyED formula. But why would I do that? It didn't end well with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I read the book. He even brings up like how it became a book in the journal, like somewhat like Jekyll told his story to the author of the book and wrote it down as like, it was so fantastic, like no one would believe something so fantastical, but my story must be told as a cautionary tale to both science and God, and if they think it's fake, then they'll still understand the message. So Double D doesn't really think much of it. He even in fact is like, oh, this is stupid, like it's absolutely foolish, and again, if it was real, then it's a cautionary tale. So he locks the journal away, he puts it in his desk, and just proceeds to go on with his day. However, the next day doesn't really turn out well for Double D, because today Kevin has decided to pick on Double D, and oh, it's bad. It was like a horrible prank, and even Ed and Eddie are like, oh, dude, that's awful. And to which Double D is like, now listen here, young man, and he's gonna like, I'm listening. Kevin's like, I'm listening. You got something to say? And to which Double D is like, never mind. And he's like, that's the problem with you, double dweeb. You're too nice for your own good. So Double D, having that anger kind of like stewing inside of him, goes back to his room. When he goes home, he goes right to his room, doesn't say anything to Eddie and Ed, and proceeds to jot down and take all the notes from from Jekyll's ingredients to make the HyED formula. Now, Double D is like, am I crazy for doing this? Am I mad for thinking that this could be an actual thing? Like, am I mad for thinking that I can like make this a real thing? But he still keeps going. Like, he decides that yes, I can if nothing ventured, nothing gained. And even like Double D is so angered by what Kevin said to him and did to him in this prank that he basically is like, I'm throwing caution to the wind because this has affected me that much, and this is not the first time like I've allowed my kindness to do something. And he's like, I could be making poison for all I know. But he gets it all together and now has the potion in his hand, and he's like, I would say that I'd be doing this for science, but this is the first time I've ever done something selfish. And proceeds to drink the formula, and he's like, ugh, that was disgusting. I can't believe I thought that I could do that. Like, all I did was put a horrible taste in my mouth, and I'm probably give myself bad gas. Jekyll's, HyED's formula. What was I thinking? So Double D goes to bed that night, but when he wakes up, he's in a completely different, he's in the back of the school. Like, he's found himself in the back of the school, wearing nothing but his shorts and his hat. He sees the hat on the ground. He's like, oh dear, throws it on, throws his cap on, and is like, why am I half naked in the middle? Like, ugh, that horrible liquid, what did it do to me? Because he like stopped and saw that the school has been vandalized and broken into by some unknown assailant. Now, the Peach Creek didn't have security footage, so all they think of it was that it was just vandalized by good old-fashioned high school football rivalry. So they think the Lemon Brook football team came in and vandalized the school. That was it. But Double D is like freaked out by that. He's generally freaked out by the thought of drinking that formula. He's like, did I let my own Mr. Hyde out? He even fellows, that day at lunch, he's like, fellows, I have a confession to make. I fear that in a moment of pure malice, I unleash some horrible monster from the depths of my psyche. And they're like, what? He's like, I became Mr. Hyde. And they're like, that stupid book. Double D, you gotta stop reading books. And you should, and it's like, you should start reading comic books. But later that day, Double D is like, well, maybe that stupid journal and whatever just got in my head. Yes, that's all it was. Like, I just allowed, my own paranoia, and I probably sleptwalked like Ed did. Like, that's all it was. So he goes to bed again, and next day, he finds himself back in his room, and he's like, peace of mind, all coincidence, until he walks out and sees his kitchen. The door has been the kitchen door has been thrown open, the food's been strewn everywhere and partially eaten. He thinks that it was Ed that was sleep eating. But Ed, however, was asleep in his bed, and he's like, what? And furthermore, their father, Ed's parents' car has been completely totaled. It was smashed. And it was left, and in one of the sticky notes was actually horribly scribbled in, Edward went to the auto shop after mysterious vandalism, and the note replied with, fucking die on it. And he's like, profanity! Oh, this is horrible. So now Double D is like freaked out by all of this, of thinking that he is Mr. Hyde. So he contacts Ed and Eddie and tells them to like tie him down in his basement and like watch over him for the night, because every time he falls asleep, something else horrible happens. So Ed and Double D, Ed and Eddie tie him down, and they're like, this is stupid. Like, Eddie's like, this is stupid, Double D. You're not some monster. But as he goes to sleep, like, Double D goes to sleep, and they're about to fall asleep, that's when the change happens. And Ed's Mr. Hyde is a monster. It's all of Ed's Double D's pent-up aggression and anger and rage, and it's made just a horribly, like, almost like the Mr. Hyde, like, he's not like a giant Hulk, but he is like big, kind of like the Van Helsing Mr. Hyde, and he's like, hello boys, I'm Mr. Hyde. You can call me the new Mr. Edward Hyde. And proceeds to smash his way out of the basement, to which Ed and Eddie are like freaking out because Double D just turned into a monster right in their eyes, and Ed's like, we must become monster slayers! And Eddie's like, I can't believe I'm following you on this one, Lumpy, but okay. So Eddie and Ed follow Hyde as he continues his rampage, and this time he's just smashing through. He's tearing into houses and taking valuables. He's like just taking people's valuables. He even breaks into Eddie's house and takes Eddie's famous record player, and he's like, is this yours? Smash. And he's like, ugh, not only is he a jerk, but he's a Cockney jerk. I hate that. So as Double D as Hyde continues his rampage, he finds his way to Kevin. And Kevin is out tuning his bike, and that's when he's like, hi, Kevin. You might not know me, but I'm Double D's stepbrother. And he's like, stepbro? Yeah. And I understand that you called him a milksop or some shit. So, I think it's time for some payback. And Eddie and Ed are like running just as Kevin is like just tied up in his own bike after being horribly beaten, and all they hear is Hyde just laughing as he's leaving. So they fought, and Eddie is like, I don't know what to do, Ed. And Ed is like, but Double D is our friend. Double D's a fucking a 8-foot monster. With a Cockney prick accent. I don't know what to do, Ed. And he's like, we must consult the notes. And he's like, how did you know that? When monsters come, you always consult the science notes. So they run back to Double D's house, and they flip through Double D's, Jekyll's old notes. And they're like, stupid yield writing, just cut to the part. And the thing of it is that Jekyll notes that, like, this was a prototype. That this was, the serum in here wasn't the one that he took. This was a prototype serum, and this one's effects can be rectified. He wanted to make it like, so when he brings Hyde out, Hyde can come out of his own volition. This one was more like, if Hyde doesn't come out, I have a cure so it doesn't, like, kill me or, like, poison me or something. So Ed and Eddie have to, like, find a way to whip up the antidote, but they're idiots. That's the problem. They get a list of ingredients, so they go to, we must find the next smartest person in the cul-de-sac. So they go find Rolf, and Rolf is already in the midst of being attacked by Hyde. Hyde is found and eaten some of his chickens, and Ed is now like, for the chickens! So Rolf and Ed fight Hyde until, like, Hyde, like, takes them down and pins them to the trees, and is just like, put up a good fight, you did. But old Double D's got some real anger, and that's really fueling me. Ed, however, like, after Eddie gets them down, Hyde makes his way to the trailer park, of course, and that's where he picks a fight with the Kanker sisters. However, he does, like, pause to Marie And he goes, you know, old Sockhead really did have a thing for you. Maybe it's the rebelliousness, maybe it's something else, but he really liked you, love. and Marie's like, Double D actually like me? Oh no, and then he's like, yeah, but I don't. and then proceeds to punch Marie into like a trailer. So meanwhile, Eddie, after getting Rolf and Ed down, they actually like consult. They look over the notes, and Rolf is like, Rolf does not understand these strange go-go recipes. Perhaps crazy blondie Nad's girl will know. So they go to find Naz, and Naz is actually smart, like legit book smart, and she's actually reading through the notes because she saw what the monster did to Kevin, and they're like, this is an antidote to stop it, can you make it? So it's like different herbs and plants they have to mix together, and by this point, the monsters, like HyED has made such a racket at this point that they need to find a way to stop him now. So all of the cul-de-sac kids have been brought together like Avengers style to stop him as he's like pillaging and plundering and taking stuff. He even takes Plank from Johnny and just yeets him to the next county, to which Johnny is already running down to get Plank back. But after that, everyone unites, builds a huge elaborate trap to ensnare Mr. HyED, and it's actually Eddie who jumps on HyED's back, forces his mouth open, and pours the antidote into his mouth, leading to Ed to take over his body and become become HyED no more. After that, he profusely apologized to everyone. He's like, people of the cul-de-sac, I'm so sorry that this was done to you. And he's like, and they're like, it's okay, Ed Double D. It is? No, we're all going to pound you, you freaking dork. And it ends like like an Ed and Eddie episode with the Eds getting pounded for reasons. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. HyED Ed and Eddie crossover. I want to thank everyone for voting on this one. This was a lot of fun to do. But yeah, you guys tell me in the comments below. What did you guys think of it? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.